with Derrick Freeman.
Hello.
Mr. Freeman.
How you doing, Mr. Freeman?
Doing all right, brother. Appreciate you coming on.
No problem, man. Thanks for having me.
Now, for everybody that's listening in, we have none other than Bernard Freeman, a.k.a. Bun-B, my friend, my cousin, live inside the FreeWorld podcast with us. Bun, it sounds like you're on the road, man. Just let us know how much time you got. We got some questions for you today.
No, we make it happen.
Well, first, everybody knows, Bun, the big thing that everybody knows about you, man, of course, is UGK. And since the beginning, you guys have rep Port Arthur, Texas. So, you know, not only Port Arthur, but you had spent a lot of time in your childhood in Houston also. So you rep Houston real heavy. But tell us a little bit about that, growing up in Port Arthur, where you're from, and the experiences in Port Arthur and Houston.
Well, as you know, your listeners, I'm not sure if they know or not, you know, Port Arthur is a very small industrial town in southeast Texas. Population varies, I guess, between 50 and 55,000, depending on what time of the year you check. Built around the oil refineries. You know, Port Arthur and Beaumont both kind of sprouted up due to Spindletop. So, you know, pretty much all the small towns in that area surrounding the Spindletop, all Derrick, pretty much facilitate life for the people who worked at the refineries. And so it's a blessing and a curse, because as a blessing, you know, it provided a lot of jobs and opportunities in the early days. But, you know, nowadays, if you don't have really if you don't work for the refineries or for a company that facilitates the refineries, then, you know, finding good, sustainable work can be a bit difficult.
A lot of our eggs are in the same basket here, definitely we're tied to that oil and gas, you know, here in Port Arthur. So, you know, someone with as much talent as yourself, there's not many opportunities. So, you know, you had to look other places, and thankful that, you know, you had connections in Houston and was comfortable moving around in a big city and making connections. Yeah,
well, obviously I spent a lot of my early years in Houston going back and forth. Unfortunately, I was born in Houston, but then my parents divorced. My mother moved to Port Arthur because a lot of her family that weren't in Louisiana or Houston were living in Port Arthur, and she just wanted a breath of fresh air. And, you know, one of her aunts, my grandmother's younger sisters, was very close in age with my mom. My mom was the firstborn. And so they had a very strong relationship. And so my mom moved to Port Arthur because there was structure there for her. But as I got older and started, you know, wanting to find my way in the world, specifically with entertainment, right, Port Arthur didn't afford me any of those opportunities. So you kind of had to go to the big city to make your bones, so to speak. But, you know, I had been a big part of the culture music-wise, so we kind of knew where to look to start trying to touch base with stuff. But our connection kind of came on a fluke. We were actually in Houston shopping, and so we went to King's Flea Market on the south side. Okay. And just so happened that there was a guy there named Russell Washington who had a record store but was actually looking for talent at that time. So we drove back to Port Arthur from Houston and went got the demo tape, and then brought it all the way back to Houston to his store and let him hear a few songs. He fell in love with the earliest edit of Tell Me Something Good, which featured more than just me and Pimp, but by the time we ended up putting it out, it was only Pimp and I. And from that point on, I guess the rest is history, as they say.
Man, in the history you've made, definitely. You know, let's take it back just a little bit. The way we met was something unique, and I'll never forget it. I was a freshman in high school, and we had a class together, theater. And your last name was Freeman, and my last name was Freeman, and we got to talking one day. Or I think I told you that my dad was from Ville Platte, and you said you're from Ville Platte, and you said, well, my dad's from Ville Platte. And next thing you know, I think you went and checked, you know, some of the lines, and I went and checked some of the family lines, and sure enough, we were kin. And from then on, man, I've already thought you were intelligent, one of the most intelligent people I've met. Even in my 44 years that I've been on this earth, man, I hold you in such a high regard. But from that point on, man, I watched you, and you've always been a motivator, a trendsetter, and you've left breadcrumbs for somebody like myself that can follow if you have ambition, if you have drive. And I've always appreciated. One of the people that hit us on Facebook, you know, I put something out there earlier and was like, man, I'm getting ready to go online with Bun right now. We're doing the FreeWorld podcast. Any questions? We'll take one questions. And somebody that hit us up was Big Jack. So, you know, Big Jack said, hollered at you, man, said, what's up? And I was thinking about Big Jack being in the same class with us. It was you, Big Jack, and I think Nolan Davis. And you old cats I just looked up to you guys. So Jack said, what's up, man? But that was the beginning days, UGK. So that was Russell with Big Time, or how did Big Time come about? Is that
well, again, that came from that initial day of going to the flea market, you know, and we came to the agreement that, you know, we were open to working with them. And, you know, we were very young in the industry. We didn't really know anything as far as the music business, and he didn't either. Like he came in from a retail aspect, but he always had a really good ear for music. And, you know, he was the one that out of all the stuff, because Tell Me Something Good was actually one of the older songs that we had in the catalog at that time. So we brought him everything that we had, and he listened to some of the newer stuff, which would have been like Cocaine in the Back of the Ride would have been part of that as well. But he was like, yeah, I mean, this other stuff is cool, but this Tell Me Something Good. He's like, that's the hit. They do it. You know, and like I said, he had an amazing ear. You know, he had an amazing ear for that kind of thing, man. Shout out to Big Jack. Me and Jack were down with each other. And Nolan, of course. Nolan was, you know, probably one of my closest friends in school. And the funny thing was with working with Nolan, like, Nolan and I both kind of woke up one day and was like, yo, let's go sign up for the Navy. and so we went to the Navy. We went to the naval office and signed everything, but we didn't take the oath. And then, like, a couple of weeks later, we were like, yo, I don't think that's what we want to do. You know what I'm saying? And they tried to pigeonhole us into it. And, you know, I had tested very high. I tested like a 97.
I imagine, yeah.
For them, so their whole thing for me was like, yo, we want to send you to college, and we also want to put you, like, basically on a nuclear submarine. Like, so we want to send you to college to understand how to, you know, work in that field, like engineering situation, and then put you, like, on a nuclear submarine. And then, look, I love the water. I love to swim and all of that, but just the idea of living underwater for months at a time, that was not what I was about. That was not what I wanted to do with my life. So we realized that, like, the easiest way to get out of that would have been to get scholarships. So that's when Nolan and I really started focusing heavily on drama, and ended up getting our little scholarships back then to San Jacinto. Yeah. And that kind of was the way of getting them, like, off of our case at the time. And then after that, we decided that wasn't what we wanted to do. So yeah, we were young kids, man. You know, thank God we had options in life. Yeah. But we just didn't know what direction we wanted to go to at that point. And at that point, I really started to fall in love with the idea of making music. Right. So as much as I love theater, I just realized that wasn't necessarily a path I wanted to take. And it's funny because music kind of brought me back around to that, because being involved with hip hop culture, I've actually been in a few feature films. I was in The Dirty Third. I was in this movie called Video Girl, where I actually acted with Megan Good, her sister Lamaya Good, and Ruby D. And I actually had like a one-on-one scene with Ruby D. Like, Ruby D basically beat me up in the movie, like slapped me around. Wow. Because I was the boyfriend to Lamaya Good, and she ended up being killed while she was with me, because I had beef with some dudes out there. And then Ruby was, like, you know, very upset with me for getting the girl killed, and she kind of beat me up or whatever. And it was amazing, because, you know, you grow up looking at, you know, Ruby D is you know, that's film royalty. Yeah. You know?
Definitely.
And so, you know, being a part of hip hop culture has not only made, like, you know, my new dreams come true, but even facilitated some old dreams coming true, you know? So I'm a very, very blessed individual, man, I have to say.
Man, you're very blessed. You're very talented. You know, it full circle. You know, I've always told you that stage, when we used to have a thing telling some of the folks, if you went to a drama festival, they had a thing called Group Impromptu. And, you know, I had the honor of being in the Group Impromptu with Bun a few times.